In this video, I'm exploring some locomotive trains and some coal carrier cars. So here's some history of these trains. The Georges Creek Railroad was a railroad operated by the Georges Creek Coal and Iron Company in western Maryland. The railroad operated from 1853 to 1863, when it was acquired by the Cumberland and Pennsylvania Railroad, or also known as the C&P. The GC&C Railroad had several passenger cars, which along with the GC&C 16 locomotives would form a passenger train that made 2 round trips between Cumberland and Loken every day, except Sundays, as January 18th, 1878. The GC&C passenger train would leave Cumberland from a new WVC railroad station on the corner of Baltimore and Canal Street at 7:15 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. for the 75-minute trip to Vail Summit, where after a 2-hour and 15-minute layover, the train would return back to Cumberland, arriving there at 12 noon, and at 6:15 p.m. reportedly, GC&C trains operated in this manner for over 26 years. Even after control of the GC&C Railroad went to the Western Maryland Railroad in January 1907, there was no sudden change in the daily operation. The primary reason for the acquiredness of this short line railroad in Allegheny County, Maryland, was so that it could invest controlling in the WM Railroad, could use the provisions in the GC&C Railroad chapter to build a rail line from Cumberland to the Pennsylvania state line in direction of the Cornsville, Pennsylvania, so connecting with the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie, or also known as the P&LE Railroad, as part of a plan to form a single railroad that would link the Atlantic coast with the Pacific coast. Although after financial panic of 1907 caused the overextended WM Railroad to go bankrupt, just a year later, the railroad company was reorganized under the name of the Western Maryland Railroad, using the provisions of the GC&C Railroad charter. The WM Railway did build its new rail line between Cumberland and Cornsville during 1910, although through 1912, the full manager and collaboration of the GC&C Railroad with the WM Railway took place on 23 January 1917. 2 decades later, during the Great Depression of the 1930s, rail traffic on the old GC&C track was greatly reduced. On 18 March 1939, the WM Railroad Company filed a complaint with the Interstate Commerce Commission, or also known as ICC, requesting permission to abandon 13.38 miles of the old GC&C Railroad track between Narrows Park and Midland. The still active remainder of the old GC&C track west of Midland was linked with the C&P mainline track, although connecting rails at Jackson's Junction and Loken Junction. The solution for the 2 independent coal mining companies, the American Coal Company and the Maryland Coastal Coal Company, get coal transported costs down by introducing greater railroad competition in Cumberland and the western Maryland region. The plan was to twofold: get the Pennsylvania Railroad involved by building a 6-mile long connecting lines between the PRR's Bedford and Bridgeport track at the state line and the northwestern end of Cumberland, and build a 20-mile long railroad between Cumberland and George Creek Valley, which would be a rule of the coastal-owned C&P Railroad. Construction on the GC&C Railroad began in the late 1870s. An impressive 18-stall roundhouse with turntables was built in Cumberland. North Mechanic Street, where the Southern States Correlated Supply Store is now located. A double span through Trussell's Bridge carried the GC&C track over Wills Creek at an angle to a place called City Junction. For the first mile, the GC&C track ran next to Wells Creek along the southern west side of the Narrows, and the opposing to the B&O and the C&P tracks on the other side of the Narrows. At the western end of the Narrows, the GC&C tracks turned northward and slowly climbed the western slopes of Haystack Mountain. Here in LaVey, the GC&C track ran part to the old National Road and to C&P's Herrick Branch line, about 50 to 100 feet higher on the side of the mountain ridge. At the southern western end of LaVey, a long curving wooden trestle bridge known as the Winchester Road Viaduct Bridge, carrying the GC&C track from the western slopes of Haystack Mountain to the northern end of Dan's. Thanks for watching my video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and also make sure you hit that like button down below. Thanks for watching.